So let me tell you the problem with Ryan Stone. Ryan Stone, there's no other way to put it. He's very intelligent. I'm not saying that to make him feel better or to kiss his ass. He is absurdly intelligent. And if you're to read any of his previous books to the one I'm about to review now, you'll see it. And kind of like I'm not kissing their asses. I'm warning you is what I'm doing, because you're going to pick up his book, and you know how like normal mass, like this little throat bottle spray is made with atoms. Well, their books are as dense as neutron stars, with the pressure of the collapsing sun, because there's no more nuclear fusion. All that gravity compresses it. And if there was just one atom more, it turned into a black hole, but it's not quite that dense. And then the protons mix with the electrons, and you just get neutrons, and it just all bunched together. And so his first two praxeology books, I had to read them over and over and over again. Like, okay, wait, because he's packing a lot in there. To be perfectly honest, the books probably should have been, well, this is should, I'm not saying it. I'll go back and do this, but an explanation of the theories, like, all right, I got the theory, and then him explaining it in the real world, or extrapolating it so that the average mind could digest it. That was one thing I remember about reading his books. I'm like, I don't think I kept 10% of it. We're getting so many complex things, and they're all true. And so then I get this book, and I burn through it. And I'm just listening. I'm like 70% through his book, and all it is just stories. I'm like, did I miss something? Because it's got to be more complicated. It's the neutron star author, Ryan Stone. It can't be this is like helium. This is like balloons floating in the sky. I could follow along. So I reached out and I said, hey, what the hell's the point of your book again? Because the other two were, theory and that's just the field report book. It literally is just field reports. I'm like, oh, okay. And so this presumes you've read the first two books, Praxeology Frame and Praxeology Dread. And then this is just a group of field reports he's selected through various discussion channels and boards and everything throughout his life, and showing the rules of and the trends and the observations of the previous two books. Which then I was like, well, I should probably reread the previous two books. I'm like, no, I don't have it in me to do that. And so you could pick this book up, and it's not just field reports, and he doesn't introduce them or explain the concept. There's a paragraph up front where he revisits the previous concept he had in other books, and here's how we're going to explain it. And in that sense, I think it would be almost better for you to read Praxeology field reports or Praxeology 3 field reports, and then go back and start reading. Because I think in a weird sense, it makes, to me, I would have, okay, what happened in the real world? All right, now let's go back and see if we can study what the orangutans did in the jungle. Oh, I see. They're following this principle or this rule. And then hit that one again. Now you say, well, why would I want to read this book? What's going on? What does it have to do with getting my wife to have sex with me again? All of his books, all three of them, are for men who they're dating women. They're somehow in a relationship with a woman. On the light end, it could be that you're dating a little bit more than seriously, or you're married, and the woman is just not as fun and girly or feminine or having as much sex before. And then this version 3 is basically how to get your wife to fuck you again. I mean, it really is that. And a lot of the samples he pulls from it is that. So I guess maybe if we were to talk about my experiences, it was the first half, dating and all that. And then the relationships is you will see me and Ryan diverge greatly, because I'm reading through his books. I'm like, this is a fucking nightmare. And Ryan takes thousands, well, maybe not thousands, but I wouldn't doubt it if there is at least 100 rules and this and that. And he just does it, like a jujitsu master, just knows all these moves. And I'm like, do the Indiana Jones, grab the gun and shoot the bad guy. I do not I do not have the patience for it. I would never be able to follow Ryan's advice. I am more of the yell, get the fuck out of here. It's either working or it's not, and I ain't gonna sit here and do my mental jujitsu and figure, oh well, she's doing this. I'm not saying Ryan's wrong. I have no patience for this, but it's not for me. It's for guys probably who are stuck in a marriage with kids, and they can't just say, get the fuck out of here. They have to scramble and fight their way out. They have to abandon this be nice to my wife and be a doormat and Lester burn them up. I mean, you might want to even watch American Beauty as a very diluted, watered down version of what he's about to lay on you. They have to go through all this. They have to hit the gym, become the focus, Why? What are the dynamics? How does it work? That's all in Praxeology. 1, 2, frame and dread. And then even a little bit, but to a more digestible level in the field reports. And even then, there were times I'm like, oh my, it's not a complaint. I'm so fucking happy I'm not married after reading through that. I had a couple close calls back in the day, but holy shit. The fact I don't have kids and I don't have marriage, you avoid this labyrinth nightmare of 5D chess bullshit. Where you're like, oh, you don't like this? It's over. Bye. No, there's no kids. You don't get no money. I'm walking. And I found that I think Praxeology 0 should just be, don't get married. You don't have to deal with all this nightmare. If you aren't married, go pick up and read the series. It's going to be long and a slog, and that should burn into your head. Hey, if you done fucked up and you get married, and especially if you got kids, this is the shit you got to do. Because you can file for a divorce, but the kids are and you're not going to have sex with your wife. A lot of guys want to win their wife back, like Divorced Dad. Have you guys ever seen the comic book spoof, the guy Divorced Dad in the card game? You will win her back. No, I'll replace you. It's just so I think even if you have no intentions of getting married or you're thinking about it, please go read all 3, which is going to take some time and realize that's what's going to happen if you choose wrong, of which there's a 45% chance of that happening. And that says nothing. That's like divorce. That says nothing about being miserable and unhappy and not having sex, which is, I mean, God almighty, that'd be a study. What percent of marriages, what's the frequency of sex in marriages? And it's not enough for men. Let's just put it that way. It's not enough. And so he addresses this while you're got your hand tied behind your back with kids and a marriage license. How do you get out? How do you get your life back? How do you get your wife to have sex with you again? Or treat you nice? It's not solely focused on sex, but that's the disproportionate focus because that's what men are disproportionately in, and they're not getting enough. Sorry. Oh, this country is underfucked. I have spoken. That's a bad thing. So reading through it and just reading through these fields reports that these guys are in, I'm like, oh my God. Gee whiz. Like, hell no. But that's why Ryan's books are good. So that's the theme of these books. Frame is how to maintain your frame with the girls you're dating or your wife. Dread is how to use your absence. I'm really reducing that one. How do you use your absence and say, no, I'll leave. There's a possibility of that if you don't change your fucking attitude, weight, whatever, behavior. And then praxeology, or I'm sorry, a field reports is just a practical application of those or field study showing, okay, here's what's happening here and here's and this is how it was predictable and why you should do X and not Y. So the books they're good. They're well written. They're very dense. That's not a drawback. It's just, it's a lot of fucking bullshit. I remember, who was it? It wasn't that long ago. I was talking to someone, maybe it was on the super chats. He said, you gotta treat women poorly, or I like you keep them at arm's distance. And that's hard. I don't like those games. I don't want to treat a woman poorly. I got an idea. How about I treat you great and you treat me great? And it's like a positive reinforcement thing. How about that? No, you got to engage in these freaking games. And it's not a complaint or criticism I have of the book because that's what the book is trying to address. It was exhausting reading all three. And so if you're in that situation or you're about to get, like, let's say you're religious and you have to get married, you need to get these books and you need to, early, what is it? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Nip the shit in the bud. Understand what Ryan is writing. But I would say probably start off with the field reports. So you kind of, okay, this is what's happening. And then go back and read frame because you will have the frame to understand it. I linked them all below. Yeah, that was about it. I'm trying to think if there was anything else. I did the audiobook. I don't think you need the paperbacks or Kindle. Ironically, the third would be the introductory book that I'd start with, then go through and then read the introductory book or the third book again. Take your time. I would almost say after the end of each chapter, write down. This is almost like you're studying a book in college. You got to write notes and there's, okay, here's why, flow charts, diagrams. And that's about it. That's it. So it wasn't a fun book the field reports were good to read, even though they were somewhat painful. The other two were a slog, and that's not a bad thing. It's because he's trying to deal with advanced topics. All I drew from this is, for the love of God, there's nothing worse. I did this, I did that, my wife won't have sex with me. And you're negotiating with your wife to have sex. Like, oh no. I say, let's not be in that position to begin with. I say, let's just say, no, there's no marriage and there's no kids, or there's a trust, or I've established it that I'm walking at any moment. Here are the rules we're going to follow. And yeah, if you want to be scared away from marriage, go read those field reports. And you'd be like, oh, is that what awaits me? Yeah, that's what awaits you. All right, we got any super chats? We got one. Hexus. $2 Cappy. Do you generally recommend audio over book? No, it really depends on the book. For example, Mike Sartain really likes data-heavy books. And 2 books ago, I wrote a data-heavy book. It's called A World Without Men, an analysis of an all-female economy. So what I did is I backed out all the men from the economy based on the U.S. Labor Department's figures and recreated GDP per capita and all that. There's a lot of charts and data, what industries, what fields, let's look at plumbers, let's look at teachers. So you're going to have a lot of teachers and social workers, but you're not going to have any toilets if you're wondering what a world without men would look like. You'd have a lot of nurses, no doctors. And don't worry, you wouldn't even have hospitals because you don't have any carpenters or contractors, and you wouldn't have any electricity either. So you'd have a lot of teachers. And DEI consultants and HR people. No food, but at least you got a lot of HR people. So to show all that, I can't just say that. I got to show it with the data. And you don't get that data with an audible book. Matter of fact, with a lot of my audible books, which are all audible, is I make a PowerPoint presentation for you to download to follow along because you really do need the visuals. But the last book I wrote, not a single chart, not math heavy at all. And that I'd recommend Audible because it's purely ideas. There's no data or charts. So it really depends on the book. If it's philosophical and there's not a lot of data, like according to chart 1, or if 300,000 bats fly with 800,000 mosquitoes, avoiding scientific numbers, I'd get the Audible book just because you can do other things. But some books you do need the visuals. So that's it. All right, that's it. You guys have a good night. See you guys later, Toodles.